Want to hear something crazy? This August, more money changed hands for collector cars than most small countries see in their entire GDP. Monterey Car Week 2025 just wrapped up, and the numbers are absolutely staggering. We're talking about machines that sold for prices that could buy entire city blocks, private jets, or hell. Small islands in the Caribbean. But here's what's really wild. Some of these cars aren't just expensive because they're rare. They're expensive because of stories that'll make your jaw drop, mysteries that took decades to solve, and engineering that was so far ahead of its time, it's still impressive today. Stay tuned because the car that took the #1 spot, it shattered every record in the book and has a backstory that sounds like it came straight out of a Hollywood thriller. For those of you who've never been to Monterey Car Week, picture this. It's like the Super Bowl, World Series, and Masters Tournament all rolled into one. But for car guys. Every August, the most serious collectors, dealers, and automotive royalty descend on California's Monterey Peninsula, like it's some kind of holy pilgrimage. You've got Pebble Beach, where concourse judges inspect cars with magnifying glasses, like they're examining the crown jewels. There's Laguna Seca, where million-dollar race cars actually get driven hard, like they were meant to be. And then, there are the auctions, R.M. Sotheby's, Bonhams, Gooding and Company, where fortunes are made and lost with the swing of an auctioneer's hammer. This year was different though. The market's been crazy volatile, with some saying we're in a bubble, others claiming we're just getting started. But when the final gavels dropped and the dust settled, 2025 proved that for the right car, with the right story, at the right moment, money is absolutely no object. Before we dive into the countdown, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we've got some incredible automotive content coming your way. And trust me, you're going to want to see what we've got planned for next week. Now, let's get into it. These are the 10 most expensive cars sold at Monterey Car Week 2025, and I guarantee some of these prices will blow your mind. 10. 2015 Ferrari LaFerrari. Starting off our countdown at number 10, we've got a car that represents the absolute pinnacle of modern Ferrari engineering. The 2015 LaFerrari that hammered down for $5.23 million. Now I know what you're thinking. $5 million for a 2015 car? Are you kidding me? But here's the thing about the LaFerrari. This isn't just any modern supercar. This is Ferrari's first production hybrid, and it's basically a Formula One car that you can legally drive to the grocery store. Under that carbon fiber body sits a naturally aspirated 6.3-liter V12, making 789 horsepower, paired with an electric motor adding another 161 horses. That's 950 horsepower total, and it'll rocket from 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. But the real magic isn't just the power, it's how Ferrari integrated that hybrid system. This particular example had just 1,847 miles on the odometer, which in LaFerrari terms is basically brand new. The original owner clearly bought it as an investment, not a toy, and that restraint paid off handsomely. With only 499 ever made, and considering how many have probably been crashed by Instagram influencers trying to show off, finding one this pristine is like finding a unicorn. What makes this sale even more impressive is the timing. The supercar market has been all over the place lately, but the LaFerrari has proven it's not just a flash in the pan. It's a legitimate piece of automotive history, the bridge between Ferrari's past and its electric future. 9. 1935 Mercedes-Benz 500K Special Roadster. Moving up to number 9, we're jumping back 90 years to a time when cars were rolling works of art, and nobody did it better than Mercedes-Benz. This 1935 500K Special Roadster sold for $5.34 million, and every penny was justified. Picture this. It's 1935. The world is still recovering from the Great Depression, and Mercedes decides to build what was essentially a luxury yacht on wheels. The 500K wasn't just transportation. It was a statement that said, "I have arrived and I have excellent taste." This particular car is what they called a special roadster, which was Mercedes' way of saying, we took our already incredible 500K and made it even more spectacular. The bodywork flows like liquid metal, with curves that would make a Coca-Cola bottle jealous. Those massive fenders, that impossibly long hood, the chrome that gleams like jewelry. This is automotive sculpture at its finest. Under that endless hood sits a supercharged 5-liter straight-8 engine that was absolutely revolutionary for its time. We're talking about technology that wouldn't become common until decades later. The supercharger whine alone is worth the price of admission. It sounds like mechanical music. But here's what really drove the price up: provenance. This car has a documented history that reads like a novel. It was originally delivered to a German industrialist, survived World War II hidden in a barn, was discovered by American GIs, and eventually made its way to a series of collectors who understood exactly what they had. The restoration on this car is museum quality. Every piece of chrome was replated, every leather surface was hand-stitched, and the engine was rebuilt to factory specifications. When it fired up on the auction block, that supercharged 8-cylinder symphony had grown men wiping away tears. 8. 2017 Ferrari LaFerrari Aperta. At number 8, we've got the car that proves sometimes the best things come without a roof. The 2017 LaFerrari Aperta that sold for a breathtaking $6.71 million. If the regular LaFerrari was Ferrari's hybrid masterpiece, the Aperta was them saying, "Hold our Chianti and watch this." They took everything that made the LaFerrari special and then removed the roof, because apparently 950 horsepower is even better when you can hear every single one of those horses screaming. Only 210 Apertas were ever built, making it more than twice as rare as the regular LaFerrari. And here's the kicker: you couldn't just walk into a Ferrari dealer with a checkbook and buy one. Ferrari handpicked every single owner, and the waiting list was longer than the line for the men's room at a Metallica concert. This particular Aperta came finished in Rosso Corsa, that's Ferrari red for those keeping score at home, with a black interior that looked like it belonged in a spaceship. The carbon fiber work is absolutely stunning, with every surface optimized for both weight savings and visual impact. But let's talk about what it's like to actually drive one of these things. Imagine strapping yourself to a rocket that handles like it's on rails. The hybrid system doesn't just add power, it fills in the gaps where a traditional engine might lag, creating this seamless wave of acceleration that just keeps building until you run out of road, courage, or both. The sound is intoxicating. That V12 screams like a banshee, but it's not just noise, it's mechanical poetry. And with the roof off, you get the full symphony, plus the whistle of air rushing past at speeds that would make a fighter pilot nervous. At $6.71 million, this Aperta represents more than just a car. It's a piece of Ferrari's legacy, a rolling testament to what happens when Italian passion meets unlimited engineering budgets. Number 7. 1957 Ferrari 250 GT LWB California Spider Prototipo. Coming in at number 7, we have a car that's not just rare, it's literally one of a kind. The 1957 Ferrari 250 GT L WB California Spider Prototipo that sold for $7.26 million isn't just any California Spider. This is the prototype, the very first one, the car that started it all. Now, if you know anything about Ferrari California Spiders, you know we're talking about automotive royalty here. These are the cars that defined cool in the late 50s and early 60s. James Dean would have driven one if he'd lived long enough. Steve McQueen actually did drive one, and it looked absolutely perfect doing it. But this isn't just any California Spider. This is chassis number 0655 GT, the prototype that Ferrari used to develop the entire line. Think about that for a second. Every California Spider that came after this car owes its existence to this exact machine. It's like owning the first iPhone prototype, except infinitely cooler and with a V12 engine. The story of this car reads like automotive archaeology. After Ferrari finished using it for development, it disappeared into private hands and was essentially lost to history for decades. Collectors knew it existed. It was in the factory records, but nobody knew where it was. It became the automotive equivalent of a ghost story. Then, in the 1980s, a Ferrari historian tracking down prototype cars discovered it in a private collection, where it had been sitting, largely forgotten, for years. The owner didn't even realize what he had. It was like finding the Mona Lisa at a garage sale. The restoration that followed was nothing short of heroic. Every component was researched, every detail verified against factory records. The goal wasn't just to make it run, it was to return it to exactly the specification it had when it left the Ferrari factory in 1957. Under the hood sits the legendary Colombo V12, a 3-liter masterpiece that sounds like angels singing opera. This engine would go on to power some of Ferrari's greatest race cars, but in the California Spider, it was tuned for the street, which in Ferrari terms still meant it could outrun just about anything else on the road. At $7.2 million, this prototype represents more than just a car purchase. It's acquiring a piece of Ferrari's DNA, the genetic code that would influence decades of automotive excellence. Number 6. 1973 Ferrari 365 GTB4 Daytona Competizione. At number 6, we're talking about a car that represents the end of an era and the beginning of a legend, the 1973 Ferrari 365 GTB4 Daytona Competizione that sold for $8.14 million. The Daytona was Ferrari's answer to everyone who said the front-engine V12 Grand Tourer was dead. Lamborghini had just shocked the world with the mid-engine Miura, and suddenly everyone was saying, that's the future. Ferrari's response was basically, hold our espresso, and they built the Daytona, the ultimate expression of the front-engine supercar. But this isn't just any Daytona. The Competizione designation means this car was built specifically for racing, and it shows. Everything that could be lightened was lightened. Everything that could be strengthened was strengthened. The result was a car that could hold its own against purpose-built race cars while still being civilized enough to drive to the track. Under that long, aggressive hood sits a 4.4-liter V12 that produces 352 horsepower, which might not sound like much by today's standards, but in 1973, this thing was an absolute monster. The sound it makes is pure automotive pornography, a high-revving scream that builds to a crescendo that'll give you goosebumps every single time. This particular car has a racing history that reads like a greatest hits album. It competed in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Targa Florio, and dozens of other prestigious events. The logbooks document every race, every driver, every mechanical detail. It's not just a car, it's a rolling piece of motorsport history. The restoration was handled by one of the world's leading Ferrari specialists, and they spared no expense. The engine was rebuilt to exact factory specifications. The bodywork was returned to its original racing livery, and every component was either restored or replaced with period-correct parts. What really drove the price up was the provenance. This car was campaigned by some of the greatest drivers of the era, and it has the trophies to prove it. When you buy a car like this, you're not just buying the machine, you're buying the stories, the victories, the legacy. At $8.14 million, this Daytona Competizione represents the pinnacle of Ferrari's front-engine era, a time when racing cars were still recognizably related to street cars, and when driving skill mattered more than electronic aids. Number 5. 2020 Bugatti Divo. Moving into the top 5, we have a car that proves modern hypercars can be just as collectible as vintage classics. The 2020 Bugatti Divo that sold for $8.55 million. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, isn't the Divo based on the Chiron? And didn't the Chiron cost way less than that? You'd be right on both counts, but you'd be missing the point entirely. The Divo isn't just a Chiron with a body kit. It's Bugatti's love letter to the art of cornering. See, the Chiron was built to be the ultimate straight-line missile, the car that could hit 300 miles per hour if you had a long enough runway and nerves of steel. The Divo took that same 1,479 horsepower quad-turbo W16 engine and said, what if we made this thing actually handle? The result is a car that's 77 pounds lighter than the Chiron, with aerodynamics that generate 198 pounds more downforce. The suspension has been completely retuned, the steering sharpened, and the whole car optimized for the kind of driving that makes your passengers question their life choices. Only 40 Divos were ever built, and every single one was sold before the public even saw the car. Bugatti handpicked the buyers from their existing Chiron customers, and the $5.8 million asking price was just the entry fee. By the time this one hit the auction block, it had already appreciated by nearly 50%. This particular Divo came finished in a stunning two-tone blue and black scheme that looked like it was designed by someone who understood that carbon fiber is the new chrome. The interior was a masterclass in luxury minimalism. Everything you need, nothing you don't, and all of it executed with the kind of precision that only comes from unlimited budgets. But here's what really makes the Divo special. It represents Bugatti's return to its racing roots. The original Bugatti Type 35 was one of the most successful race cars in history, and the Divo is the modern interpretation of that philosophy. Ultimate performance with no compromises. At $8.55 million, this Divo proved that modern hypercars aren't just expensive toys. They're legitimate collectibles that can appreciate just as fast as they accelerate. 4. 1995 Ferrari F50. At number 4, we have a car that represents one of Ferrari's most controversial decisions, and one of their most brilliant, the 1995 Ferrari F50 that sold for $9.24 million. The F50 was Ferrari's 50th anniversary gift to themselves, and it was unlike anything they'd ever built for the street. While other manufacturers were making their supercars more comfortable, more refined, more civilized, Ferrari went completely the other direction. They basically took a Formula One car and made it street legal. The heart of the F50 is its naturally aspirated 4.7-liter V12 engine, which was directly derived from Ferrari's 1990 Formula One power plant. This isn't marketing speak. This is literally F1 technology adapted for the road. The engine produces 513 horsepower and revs to 8,500 RPM, creating a sound that's been described as mechanical violence and automotive opera in the same sentence. But here's where Ferrari really went crazy. Instead of mounting this engine in a traditional chassis, they made the engine a stressed member of the carbon fiber tub. The engine literally helps hold the car together. It's the kind of engineering solution that sounds insane until you realize it's actually brilliant. Only 349 F50s were ever built, making it significantly rarer than the F40 that came before it, or the Enzo that came after it. And unlike those cars, which were designed to be the ultimate expression of their respective eras, the F50 was designed to be a pure, unfiltered driving experience. No power steering, no ABS, no traction control, just you, the car, and physics. This particular F50 came with full documentation dating back to its original delivery, and more importantly, it had been maintained regardless of cost. The service records read like a love letter to automotive perfectionism. Every oil change documented, every component inspected, every mile cherished. The restoration history is equally impressive. When the car needed work, it went back to Ferrari's Classiche department, where factory technicians who actually worked on these cars when they were new brought it back to perfect specification. The result is an F50 that's arguably better than when it left the factory in 1995. What really drove the bidding up was the driving experience this car represents. In an era where modern supercars are becoming increasingly isolated from the road, the F50 is the exact opposite. Every input from the road comes straight through to your hands. Every engine vibration travels through the carbon fiber tub to your spine. It's not comfortable. It's transcendent. At $9.24 million, this F50 represents the last of Ferrari's analog supercars, the final car before electronics started mediating the relationship between driver and machine.
3. 1993 Ferrari F40 LM GTC. Breaking into the top 3, we have a car that takes the legendary F40 and turns it up to 11. The 1993 Ferrari F40 LM GTC is sold for a staggering $11.05 million.
Now, if you thought the regular F40 was extreme, the LM GTC is what happens when Ferrari's engineers are given unlimited budgets and told to build the ultimate track weapon. This isn't just an F40 with some racing modifications. This is a completely different animal. The LM GTC was built specifically for the IMSA GT Championship, and only 19 were ever made. Think about that number for a second. 19. You're more likely to meet someone who's been to space than someone who owns one of these cars. The differences between this and a regular F40 are immediately obvious. The bodywork is more aggressive, with a massive rear wing that looks like it could generate enough downforce to drive the car upside down. The front splitter is so low it probably scrapes on painted parking lines. Every surface has been optimized for aerodynamic efficiency rather than street usability. Under the engine cover sits an evolution of the F40's twin-turbo V8, but this one produces 700 horsepower, nearly 200 more than the street car. The turbos are larger, the intercooler's more efficient, and the whole system tuned for maximum attack rather than drivability. This particular car has a racing history that reads like a motorsport hall of fame. It competed in some of the most prestigious races of the 1990s, driven by factory Ferrari pilots who knew how to extract every ounce of performance from these incredible machines. The restoration was handled by Ferrari Classiche, and they approached it like they were restoring the Sistine Chapel. Every component was either rebuilt to factory specifications or replaced with period-correct parts. The result is an F40 LM GTC that's arguably in better condition than when it left the factory 30 years ago. What makes this car truly special is its place in Ferrari history. The F40 was Enzo Ferrari's final project before his death, and the LM GTC represents the ultimate expression of his vision. It's the last car that carries his direct influence, built without compromise for the pure joy of going fast. At $11.05 million, this F40 LM GTC isn't just expensive, it's priceless. It represents the end of an era, when racing cars were still recognizably related to street cars, and when the pursuit of speed was more important than comfort or convenience.
Number 2, 1961 Ferrari 250 GT SWB, California, Competizione Alloy Splitter.
Coming in at number 2, we have a car that represents the absolute pinnacle of Ferrari's golden age. The 1961 Ferrari 250 GT SWB California Competizione Alloy Spider that sold for an absolutely mind-bending $25.3 million. Let me break down that mouthful of a name, because every word matters. This is a 250 GT, which means it's powered by Ferrari's legendary Colombo V12 engine. It's an SWB, which stands for short wheelbase, meaning it was built for agility rather than comfort. It's a California, which was Ferrari's open-top Grand Tourer for the American market. It's a Competizione, meaning it was built specifically for racing. And it's an alloy spider, meaning the body is made of lightweight aluminum rather than steel. Put all that together, and you have what many consider to be the most desirable Ferrari ever built. This is the car that defined what a sports car should be: beautiful, fast, and built without compromise. Only 106 California Spiders were ever built, and of those, only a handful were Competizione models with aluminum bodies. This particular car is chassis number 2, 935 GT, and its history reads like a greatest hits album of 1960s motorsport. The car was originally delivered to Luigi Chinetti, Ferrari's legendary American importer, who immediately entered it in some of the most prestigious races of the era. It competed at Sebring, Daytona, and dozens of other events, driven by some of the greatest pilots of the golden age of racing. But here's where the story gets really interesting. After its racing career ended, the car disappeared into private hands and was essentially lost for decades. Ferrari historians knew it existed, it was in the factory records, but nobody knew where it was. It became one of the most sought-after missing Ferraris in the world. The car was finally rediscovered in the 1980s, hidden away in a private collection where it had been sitting, largely forgotten, for years. The condition was remarkable. The original aluminum body was intact. The numbers-matching engine was still in place. And most incredibly, the original racing livery was still visible under layers of dust and neglect. The restoration that followed was nothing short of heroic. Every component was researched, every detail verified against factory records and period photographs. The goal wasn't just to make it run, it was to return it to exactly the specification it had when it was campaigning in the early 1960s. The result is a car that's not just restored, it's reborn. The Colombo V12 sounds exactly as it did when it was terrorizing racetracks 60 years ago. The aluminum bodywork gleams like liquid mercury. Every detail, from the competition seatbelts to the period-correct instruments, is absolutely perfect. At $25.3 million, this California Competizione represents more than just a car purchase. It's acquiring a piece of automotive DNA, a direct link to Ferrari's golden age when racing on Sunday meant selling cars on Monday. Number 1. 2025 Ferrari Daytona SP3 tailor-made. And here we are, the moment you've been waiting for. The most expensive car sold at Monterey Car Week 2025. And honestly, When I first heard this number, I had to double check it because it seemed impossible. The 2025 Ferrari Daytona SP3 tailor-made that sold for an absolutely astronomical $26 million. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, isn't the Daytona SP3 a current production car? How did it sell for more than cars that are literally one-of-one prototypes? And that's exactly the right question to ask, because this isn't just any Daytona SP3. The Daytona SP3 is part of Ferrari's Icona series, limited production cars that pay homage to Ferrari's greatest hits. The SP3 is Ferrari's tribute to their legendary sports prototypes of the 1960s and 70s, cars like the 330 P4 that battled Ford at Le Mans and won. But this particular SP3 is something else entirely. The tailor-made designation means this car went through Ferrari's ultimate customization program, where literally anything is possible if you have the budget and the imagination. The exterior is finished in a color that doesn't have a name. It was created specifically for this car by Ferrari's paint specialists. It's a deep, almost liquid blue that seems to change color depending on the light, with gold accents that reference Ferrari's racing heritage. The carbon fiber work is absolutely stunning, with every surface optimized for both aerodynamics and visual impact. Inside, the customization reaches almost absurd levels. The seats are upholstered in leather that was sourced from a specific region of Italy and dyed to match the exterior paint. The dashboard features hand-engraved aluminum panels that tell the story of Ferrari's racing history. Even the floor mats are custom woven with the owner's initials. Under the hood sits Ferrari's naturally aspirated 6.5-liter V12, producing 829 horsepower and revving to 9,500 RPM. This engine is essentially a street-legal version of Ferrari's Formula One power plant, and it sounds like the automotive equivalent of Pavarotti hitting a high note. But here's what really drove the price to $26 million. Exclusivity. Only 599 Daytona SP3s will ever be built, and every single one was sold before the public even saw the car. Ferrari handpicked every buyer, and the waiting list was longer than the line for Hamilton tickets. This particular car was originally commissioned by a collector who spared absolutely no expense. The tailor-made program added nearly $10 million to the base price, but the result is a car that's truly one of one, a rolling piece of automotive art that will never be duplicated. The sale at $26 million represents more than just market appreciation. It's a statement about what Ferrari means to collectors. This isn't just a car, it's a piece of Ferrari's soul, a direct connection to their racing heritage, and a promise that the future of the automobile will be just as exciting as its past. And there you have it, the 10 most expensive cars sold at Monterey Car Week 2025, with a combined value of over $120 million. That's more money than the GDP of some small countries, all spent on machines designed to go fast and look good doing it. What's really fascinating about this list is what it tells us about the collector car market right now. We've got everything from cutting-edge modern hypercars to priceless vintage racers, and they're all appreciating at rates that would make Wall Street jealous. But here's what I think is really driving these prices. These aren't just cars anymore. They're rolling pieces of history, mechanical art, and in many cases, the last examples of technologies and philosophies that will never be repeated. When you buy a car like that 1961 California Competizione, you're not just buying transportation, you're buying a direct connection to an era when racing was dangerous and drivers were heroes. The modern cars on this list prove that today's hypercars aren't just expensive toys. They're legitimate collectibles that can appreciate just as fast as they accelerate. The Bugatti Divo, the Ferrari Daytona SP3, even the LaFerrari. These cars represent the pinnacle of current automotive technology, and 20 years from now, they'll be the vintage classics that collectors are fighting over. The prices we saw this year might seem crazy, but they reflect something deeper. Our collective understanding that we're living through the end of the internal combustion era. Electric cars are coming, autonomous driving is on the horizon, and the days of pure unfiltered mechanical experiences are numbered. These cars represent the last hurrah of the gasoline engine, and collectors are willing to pay almost anything to preserve that heritage. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the most expensive cars from Monterey Car Week 2025, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We've got some incredible content coming up, including an exclusive look at some of the cars that didn't sell and why the market rejected them. And speaking of incredible automotive content, you absolutely need to check out our recent video about the strangest cars ever sold at Barrett-Jackson. We're talking about everything from amphibious cars to TV show replicas. And trust me, some of these prices will shock you just as much as the ones we talked about today. Click right here to watch that video, and I'll see you in the next one.